Marcus had been guarding the palace gates for 15 years. Every morning he put on his blue uniform with golden buttons and stood tall at his post. The other guards respected him because he never missed a day of work and always did what was right. The kingdom had been peaceful under King Edward's rule, but everything changed when the old king became very sick. Marcus watched doctors come and go from the palace, their faces growing more worried each day. The people in the town started whispering about what would happen next. King Edward had 2 sons. Prince William was the older brother, and should have been the next king according to the law. He was kind to everyone, helped poor families, and always listened to people's problems. The palace workers loved him because he treated them like family. Prince Henry was the younger brother, but he was very different. He spent money carelessly, threw big parties every night, and never cared about the kingdom's people. He had rich friends who only wanted to use the kingdom's money for themselves. One cold winter morning, Marcus noticed something strange. Prince Henry was having secret meetings with important government officials. They talked in quiet voices and looked around nervously when anyone came near. Marcus felt worried but didn't know what to do. The king's health got worse, and soon everyone knew he would die soon. Prince William spent his days visiting sick people in the town and making sure the kingdom ran smoothly. Prince Henry continued his parties and secret meetings. Marcus started paying closer attention to what was happening around the palace. He heard whispers about changing the rules of who would become king. Some officials were talking about making Prince Henry the next ruler, instead of Prince William. One evening, Marcus overheard a conversation that made his blood run cold. Prince Henry was planning to take the crown before his father died. He had promised government officials money and power if they helped him become king instead of his brother. Marcus knew this was wrong, but he was just a guard. Who would listen to him? He thought about his own family and how Prince Henry's rule would make life harder for ordinary people. He also thought about Prince William, who would make a good king if given the chance. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He walked around the palace grounds thinking about what he should do. The moon was bright, and he could see the kingdom spreading out below the hill where the palace stood. All those people were counting on having a good king to protect them. Marcus made a decision that would change everything. He decided he couldn't just stand by and watch the wrong person take the crown. Even though he was scared, he knew he had to find a way to help Prince William become the rightful king. The next morning, Marcus began watching Prince Henry's group more carefully. He started writing down everything he saw and heard. He noted which officials were part of the plan and what they were promising each other. Marcus also began talking quietly with other palace workers who supported Prince William. The cooks, gardeners, and maids all loved the older prince and were worried about what Prince Henry would do as king. A week later, King Edward died peacefully in his sleep. The whole kingdom mourned their good king, but everyone also wondered what would happen next. Prince Henry immediately called a meeting with the government officials who supported him. Marcus knew this was his chance to act. He had to find a way to make sure Prince William got the crown that belonged to him by right. The future of the entire kingdom depended on what happened in the next few days. As he stood at his post that morning, watching people come and go from the palace, Marcus felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He was just one guard, but sometimes one person's courage can change history. The palace felt different now that the old king was gone. There was tension in the air, and everyone seemed to be choosing sides. Marcus touched the letter he had hidden in his uniform pocket, a letter that could change everything if he was brave enough to deliver it. Prince Henry walked past Marcus that morning, surrounded by his supporters. He looked confident and smiled like he had already won. But Marcus knew something Prince Henry didn't know, that there were still people willing to fight for what was right. The real battle for the kingdom was about to begin, and a simple palace guard was about to play the most important role of his life. The morning after King Edward's death, Prince Henry moved quickly. He called an emergency meeting with the royal council, claiming there was urgent business that couldn't wait. Marcus stood outside the meeting room listening through the heavy wooden doors. Inside, Prince Henry was telling lies about his brother. He said Prince William was too young and inexperienced to rule. He claimed the kingdom needed a strong leader who could make tough decisions right away. The officials who supported him nodded and agreed with everything he said. Marcus felt his heart pounding as he listened. He knew Prince William was actually older and had more experience helping their father run the kingdom. Prince Henry was twisting the truth to get what he wanted. After the meeting, Marcus followed one of the officials who had supported Prince Henry. The man went to a tavern in town where he met with other wealthy merchants. Marcus hid nearby and heard them talking about the deals they had made with Prince Henry. They were planning to divide up the kingdom's resources among themselves. They would control the trade routes, raise taxes on poor people, and use the royal treasury for their own businesses. Marcus realized that Prince Henry becoming king would be a disaster for everyone except his rich friends. That evening, Marcus went to find Prince William. The rightful heir was in the palace garden, sitting alone on a stone bench. He looked sad and tired, like the weight of losing his father was crushing him. Marcus approached carefully. He had never spoken directly to a prince before, but he knew this was his only chance. Prince William looked up when he heard footsteps on the gravel path. "Your Highness," Marcus said, removing his hat respectfully. "I'm Marcus, one of the palace guards. I need to tell you something very important." Prince William studied Marcus's face and could see the honesty there. "Please sit down," the prince said. "What's troubling you?" Marcus sat on the edge of the bench and told Prince William everything he had overheard. He explained about the secret meetings, the promises of money and power, and Prince Henry's plan to take the crown illegally. Prince William listened without interrupting. When Marcus finished speaking, the prince was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. "I suspected something like this might happen. My brother has always wanted what wasn't his. What can we do, Your Highness?" Marcus asked. "You're the rightful king, but they're planning to crown Prince Henry tomorrow morning." Prince William stood up and began pacing. "The law is clear about succession, but if enough officials support my brother, they might be able to ignore the law. We need proof of what they're planning." Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out a small notebook. "I've been writing down everything I've seen and heard. I also know which guards and servants are loyal to you." Prince William took the notebook and read through Marcus's careful notes. His eyes widened as he saw the extent of his brother's conspiracy. "This is excellent work, Marcus. But we need more than notes. We need witnesses and evidence that the royal council can't ignore." They spent the next hour making a plan. Marcus would continue gathering information, while Prince William quietly contacted officials who were still loyal to the law. They had to work fast because the coronation was scheduled for the next day. Marcus left the garden feeling more determined than ever. He went straight to the kitchen where he found Cook Mary, who had worked in the palace for 30 years. She loved Prince William like a son and was horrified to learn about Prince Henry's plot. "That spoiled boy thinks he can steal what doesn't belong to him," Mary said angrily. "Well, he's got another thing coming. I know where they keep the important papers, and I know which servants will help us." Throughout the night, Marcus and the loyal palace staff worked together. They discovered that Prince Henry had forged documents trying to prove he was the older brother. They found evidence of the bribes he had promised to government officials. Most importantly, they found the original royal decree that King Edward had written, clearly stating that Prince William should be his successor. Prince Henry had hidden this document and planned to destroy it after the coronation. As dawn approached, Marcus felt exhausted but hopeful. They had gathered enough evidence to prove Prince Henry's conspiracy. Now they just had to figure out how to present it at the right moment. The palace was already bustling with preparations for the coronation. Decorators hung banners and flowers while cooks prepared a feast. Musicians practiced their songs and important guests began arriving from other kingdoms. Marcus watched it all with a heavy heart, knowing that if their plan failed, they would be crowning the wrong king. He touched the hidden documents in his uniform and said a silent prayer. Everything depended on what happened in the next few hours. Prince Henry appeared in the courtyard, wearing expensive robes and acting like he had already won. He smiled and waved at the gathering crowd, but Marcus could see the nervousness in his eyes. Deep down, Prince Henry knew what he was doing was wrong. The time for action was coming soon. Marcus took a deep breath and prepared himself for the most important day of his life. The coronation morning arrived with dark clouds covering the sky. Marcus stood at his post watching hundreds of people gather in the palace courtyard. Noble families, foreign ambassadors, and common citizens all came to witness the crowning of their new king. Prince Henry walked around greeting his supporters, but Marcus noticed something interesting. Many of the older nobles looked uncomfortable. They whispered among themselves and kept glancing toward the palace doors as if waiting for someone else to appear. Marcus had positioned loyal servants throughout the crowd. Cook Mary was near the platform where the ceremony would take place. The head gardener, Thomas, stood by the main entrance. The stablemaster, Peter, was watching from the side gates. They were all ready to act when the time came. At 10 o'clock, the royal trumpeters announced the beginning of the ceremony. Prince Henry walked onto the platform wearing a golden robe and a confident smile. The Archbishop of the kingdom stood waiting with the royal crown on a velvet cushion. The crowd grew quiet as the Archbishop began speaking about the sacred duty of kingship. He talked about protecting the people, upholding justice, and serving the kingdom with honor. Marcus noticed that Prince Henry looked bored during this part. Just as the Archbishop was about to place the crown on Prince Henry's head, Marcus heard a commotion near the palace entrance. Prince William appeared, walking slowly but purposefully through the crowd. He was dressed simply in black, still mourning his father's death. People began murmuring and pointing. Many had wondered where Prince William had been during the preparations. Prince Henry's face turned red when he saw his brother approaching the platform. "Stop this ceremony," Prince William called out in a clear, strong voice. "I have something important to say before any crown is placed on anyone's head." The Archbishop looked confused and glanced between the two brothers. The crowd buzzed with excitement and confusion. Prince Henry stepped forward angrily. "This is my coronation," Prince Henry declared. "You're too late, brother. The decision has been made." Prince William climbed the steps to the platform. Marcus held his breath, knowing this was the crucial moment they had planned for. Prince William reached into his coat and pulled out the original royal decree. "This is our father's final written command," Prince William announced, holding the document high so everyone could see it. "It clearly states that I, as the elder son, should inherit the throne." The crowd gasped. Many people had been told that Prince Henry was the older brother. Prince Henry's supporters looked shocked and angry. The Archbishop stepped forward to examine the document. "That's a forgery," Prince Henry shouted. "Don't listen to him." This was Marcus's cue. He stepped forward from his position and spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I have proof that Prince Henry has been lying to everyone." All eyes turned to Marcus. A simple palace guard speaking up during a royal coronation was unheard of. Prince Henry pointed at him angrily. "Guards, arrest this man for interrupting the ceremony." But the other guards didn't move. Marcus had spoken to many of them the night before, and they knew he was telling the truth. Instead of arresting Marcus, they stepped closer to the platform to hear what he had to say. Marcus pulled out his notebook and the evidence they had gathered. "Prince Henry has been meeting secretly with corrupt officials. He promised them money and power in exchange for supporting his illegal claim to the throne." Cook Mary stepped forward from the crowd. "I saw Prince Henry hide the real royal decree in the kitchen pantry. He was planning to burn it after the coronation." Thomas the gardener raised his hand. "I heard Prince Henry tell Lord Richardson that he would give him control of the northern trade routes if he helped make him king." One by one, the loyal palace staff came forward with their evidence. Each person told what they had seen or heard. The crowd listened in amazement as the full extent of Prince Henry's conspiracy was revealed. The Archbishop examined all the documents carefully. His face grew grave as he realized the truth. "These are serious accusations with substantial evidence," he announced. "According to the law and King Edward's final wishes, Prince William is the rightful heir to the throne." Prince Henry's supporters began arguing loudly, but they were outnumbered by people who wanted justice. Some of the corrupt officials tried to slip away from the crowd, but the loyal guards blocked their path. Prince Henry himself stood frozen on the platform. His confident smile was gone, replaced by fear and anger. He had been so close to getting what he wanted, and now it was all falling apart. The crowd began chanting Prince William's name. Marcus felt tears in his eyes as he watched the rightful king step forward to accept his crown. All their hard work and courage had paid off. But Prince Henry wasn't finished yet. Marcus could see him whispering urgently to his remaining supporters. The fight for the kingdom wasn't over yet. Prince William looked directly at Marcus and nodded with respect and gratitude. In that moment, Marcus knew that speaking up had been the right choice no matter what happened next. Prince Henry's face twisted with rage as he watched his brother step toward the crown. He wasn't willing to give up so easily. Suddenly he grabbed the Archbishop's arm and shouted to his supporters in the crowd, "Don't believe these lies. These servants have been paid to speak against me. I am your rightful king." Lord Richardson, one of Prince Henry's wealthy supporters, pushed through the crowd toward the platform. The coronation must continue as planned. We cannot let a few disgruntled servants change the course of history. Marcus watched nervously as Prince Henry's supporters began shouting and causing chaos in the crowd. Some people didn't know who to believe, and the peaceful ceremony was turning into a dangerous situation. Prince William raised his hand for silence, but the arguing continued. The Archbishop looked worried as he held the crown, uncertain about what to do next. Marcus realized they needed to act quickly before Prince Henry could cause more trouble. Then something unexpected happened. Lady Eleanor, the kingdom's most respected noblewoman, stepped onto the platform. She was King Edward's sister and had remained neutral during the brothers' conflict.
Everyone quieted down to hear what she would say. "I knew both of these young men since they were children," Lady Eleanor announced.
"I watched King Edward raise them and teach them about ruling a kingdom. I was also present when the king wrote his final decree." She walked over to Prince William and took the document from his hands. "This is indeed King Edward's handwriting and his official seal. I witnessed him sign this paper just 1 week before he died." The crowd murmured with interest. Lady Eleanor was known for her honesty and wisdom. Even Prince Henry's supporters respected her opinion. "Furthermore," Lady Eleanor continued, "I have been watching both princes for years. Prince William has shown kindness, wisdom, and genuine care for our people. Prince Henry has shown selfishness and greed." Prince Henry's face turned even redder. "Aunt Eleanor, you don't understand the complexities of ruling a kingdom in these difficult times." "I understand perfectly," Lady Eleanor replied firmly. "And that's exactly why we need a king who cares more about his people than about his own wealth and power." Marcus felt hope growing in his chest. With Lady Eleanor's support, more people were beginning to see the truth. But he also noticed that some of Prince Henry's supporters were whispering among themselves and looking angry. The Archbishop finally spoke up. "In light of all the evidence presented and with Lady Eleanor's testimony, I believe we must follow King Edward's wishes and the law of succession. Prince William is the rightful heir." A cheer went up from much of the crowd, but Prince Henry stepped forward aggressively. "I will not let you steal my throne. Guards, arrest these conspirators." Several guards who had been bribed by Prince Henry moved toward the platform, but they were met by the loyal guards who supported Marcus and Prince William. For a tense moment, it looked like there might be fighting right there in the courtyard. Prince William stepped between the opposing groups. "Stop!" he commanded with authority. "There will be no violence in this sacred place on the day we're supposed to be honoring my father's memory." His words had power, and even some of Prince Henry's guards hesitated. Prince William continued speaking. "I challenge anyone here to look at the evidence with an honest heart. Read my father's decree. Listen to the testimony of people who have served this palace faithfully for years." Marcus watched as some of Prince Henry's supporters began to look uncertain. They could see the proof with their own eyes, and Prince William's calm, reasonable manner was very different from Prince Henry's angry shouting. One of the bribed officials, Sir Thomas, suddenly stepped forward. I need to confess something," he said nervously. "Prince Henry did promise me control of the tax collection if I supported him. I thought it would benefit my family, but I can see now that this was wrong." This confession caused more murmuring in the crowd. Other officials who had been bribed began looking uncomfortable, realizing they might be exposed next. Prince Henry saw his support crumbling and made a desperate decision. "If I cannot have the crown, then no one can." He lunged toward the Archbishop, trying to grab the crown and escape with it. Marcus reacted instantly. His 15 years of guard training kicked in, and he moved faster than he had ever moved before. He intercepted Prince Henry just as he reached for the crown, tackling him to the ground and protecting the sacred symbol of the kingdom. The crowd gasped as the two men struggled on the platform. Prince Henry was younger, but Marcus was stronger and more experienced. Within moments, Marcus had Prince Henry pinned down while other loyal guards came to help. "It's over," Marcus said firmly, looking down at the defeated prince. "Your schemes have failed, and the rightful king will take his place." Prince Henry stopped struggling and looked up at his brother with hatred and defeat in his eyes. The crown lay safely in the Archbishop's hands, waiting for the ceremony to continue with the correct person. Prince William looked down at his brother with sadness rather than anger. "I'm sorry it had to end this way, Henry. You could have been a valuable part of this kingdom if you had chosen a different path." The crowd watched in silence as Marcus helped Prince Henry to his feet. Justice had prevailed, but everyone could feel the sadness of a family torn apart by greed and ambition. With Prince Henry's conspiracy exposed and his supporters backing down, the atmosphere in the courtyard began to change. The angry shouting died down, replaced by a sense of anticipation as people realized they were about to witness the crowning of their true king. The Archbishop straightened his robes and looked solemnly at Prince William. "Your Majesty, are you ready to accept the sacred responsibility of ruling this kingdom with justice and compassion?" Prince William nodded, his face showing both determination and humility. "I am ready to serve my people as my father taught me, and as God guides me." Marcus stood nearby, still catching his breath from the struggle with Prince Henry. He watched as several loyal guards escorted Prince Henry away from the platform. The defeated prince walked with his head down, finally understanding that his selfish ambitions had cost him everything. As Prince William knelt before the Archbishop, the crowd grew completely silent. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. Marcus felt goosebumps on his arms as he realized he was witnessing a moment that would be remembered in history books. "By the authority granted to me by God and the laws of this kingdom," the Archbishop declared, "I crown you King William I, rightful ruler of this realm." The golden crown was placed carefully on Prince William's head. Sunlight broke through the dark clouds at that exact moment, casting a warm glow over the new king. The crowd erupted in joyful cheering that could be heard throughout the entire city. King William stood and turned to face his people. Marcus could see tears of happiness in the eyes of many citizens. They knew they had a good king who would care for them and protect their interests, but King William's first act surprised everyone. Instead of giving a royal speech or accepting congratulations, he walked directly to Marcus. The crowd watched in amazement as the newly crowned king approached the humble palace guard. "Marcus," King William said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "you have shown courage, loyalty, and honor that goes far beyond your duty as a guard. You risked everything to ensure justice prevailed in our kingdom." Marcus felt overwhelmed as the king continued speaking. "Without your bravery, a corrupt ruler would have stolen the throne. You have saved not just my crown, but the future of all our people." The king then did something unprecedented. He removed a golden medallion from around his own neck and placed it around Marcus's neck. "I name you Sir Marcus, protector of justice and defender of the crown. You will serve as my personal advisor and head of the royal guard." Marcus could barely speak. He had gone from being a simple guard to becoming a knight and advisor to the king. The crowd cheered loudly, showing their approval of this decision. Cook Mary wiped tears from her eyes as she watched Marcus receive his honor. Thomas the gardener clapped proudly, and all the other loyal servants smiled with joy. They had all played a part in saving their kingdom, but Marcus had led their brave effort. King William then addressed the entire crowd. "Today we have learned an important lesson about the difference between power that is stolen and authority that is earned through service. I promise you that I will always remember that my crown comes with the responsibility to protect and serve every person in this kingdom." The new king's words resonated with everyone present. Even some of Prince Henry's former supporters nodded in agreement, realizing they had made a mistake in backing the wrong brother. As the official coronation ceremony concluded, people began celebrating throughout the city. Musicians played joyful songs, vendors sold treats to children, and families gathered to share meals and discuss the dramatic events they had witnessed. Marcus walked through the crowd, still wearing his new medallion and feeling amazed by how much his life had changed in just one day. People stopped him to shake his hand and thank him for his courage. An elderly woman approached Marcus with tears in her eyes. "Thank you for speaking up," she said. "My grandson will grow up under a good king because you were brave enough to do what was right." A young father carrying his daughter on his shoulders smiled at Marcus. "You've given my children a better future. I'll tell them the story of the guard who saved the kingdom." These conversations reminded Marcus why he had taken such a big risk. It wasn't about glory or rewards. It was about making sure good people could live safely and happily under fair leadership. As evening approached, Marcus stood in the palace garden where he had first spoken to Prince William. The new king found him there, looking thoughtful in the moonlight. "Are you having second thoughts about accepting the knighthood?" King William asked with a gentle smile. Marcus shook his head. "No, Your Majesty. I'm just thinking about how one person's choice can change so many lives. If I had stayed quiet, everything would be different now." King William nodded seriously. That's exactly why I need advisors like you, Marcus. You understand that real strength comes from doing what's right, even when it's difficult or dangerous. The two men stood in comfortable silence, both reflecting on the extraordinary day. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and responsibilities, but tonight, they could appreciate the victory of justice over corruption. 3 months had passed since King William's coronation, and the kingdom was already showing signs of positive change. Marcus, now Sir Marcus and head of the Royal Guard, walked through the capital city and saw improvements everywhere he looked. The new king had kept his promises. Taxes on poor families had been reduced while wealthy merchants were required to pay their fair share. New schools were being built in villages that had never had them before. The royal treasury was being used to fix roads and bridges instead of funding lavish parties. Marcus's new role was challenging, but rewarding. He advised the king on security matters and helped investigate reports of corruption throughout the kingdom. His experience as a common guard gave him insights that other nobles couldn't provide. One morning, Marcus received disturbing news. A messenger arrived at the palace with reports that Prince Henry had escaped from the secure manor, where he was being held under house arrest. Even more concerning, he had been seen gathering supporters near the eastern border. Marcus immediately went to inform King William, who was in the royal study reviewing plans for a new hospital. The king's face grew serious when he heard about his brother's escape. "I was afraid this might happen," King William said sadly. "Henry has never been able to accept defeat gracefully." "What do our border guards report?" Marcus consulted his notes. "Prince Henry has convinced about 50 men to join him, mostly mercenaries and nobles who lost power when you became king. They're camped in the Darkwood Forest, and our scouts believe they're planning some kind of attack." The king stood up and walked to the window overlooking the courtyard. "I had hoped my brother would eventually accept his situation, and perhaps even learn from his mistakes, but it seems he's chosen a more dangerous path." Marcus could see the pain in the king's eyes. Despite everything Prince Henry had done, King William still loved his brother and wished things could be different between them. "What are your orders, Your Majesty?" Marcus asked. "Should we send troops to capture Prince Henry and his followers?" King William was quiet for a long moment, thinking carefully. "No, I don't want to start a civil war if we can avoid it. Too many innocent people would suffer. Let me try to talk to him first." Marcus felt worried about this plan. "Sire, that could be very dangerous. Prince Henry is desperate now, and desperate people make unpredictable choices." "Perhaps," the king agreed, "but he's still my brother, and I have to try to reach him before more drastic measures become necessary." Against Marcus's strong objections, King William decided to ride to the forest with only a small group of guards to meet with Prince Henry. Marcus insisted on leading this guard unit personally, knowing he would do everything possible to protect the king. The journey to Darkwood Forest took half a day. As they rode through the countryside, Marcus noticed that farmers and townspeople came out to wave at their king. Children ran alongside the horses, and elderly people blessed King William as he passed. This warm reception reminded Marcus of how different things had been when Prince Henry was trying to take power. The people genuinely loved their rightful king and trusted him to make good decisions for the kingdom. When they reached the edge of the forest, Marcus sent scouts ahead to locate Prince Henry's camp. The reports came back quickly. The rebel group was camped in a clearing about a mile into the woods, and they had posted sentries around the perimeter. King William insisted on approaching the camp under a flag of truce, hoping to arrange a peaceful meeting with his brother. Marcus rode beside him, constantly watching for signs of danger among the trees. They found Prince Henry's camp in a state of poor organization. The men looked hungry and tired, and their equipment was shabby compared to the Royal Guard's polished armor and weapons. It was clear that life as a rebel wasn't as glamorous as Prince Henry had expected. Prince Henry emerged from a makeshift tent when he saw his brother approaching. He looked thinner than before, and his clothes were dirty and worn, but his eyes still burned with the same angry determination that had led him to try stealing the crown. "So the usurper king comes to visit his exiled brother," Prince Henry said bitterly. "Have you come to gloat about your stolen victory?" King William dismounted from his horse and walked forward with his hands open, showing he carried no weapons. "I've come to offer you a chance to end this foolishness and return home, Henry. You're still my brother, and there's still a place for you in the kingdom if you're willing to accept it." Marcus stayed mounted but ready to react quickly if Prince Henry's men made any threatening moves. He could see that some of the rebels looked interested in the king's offer of peace, but others seemed eager for a fight. Prince Henry laughed harshly. "A place in the kingdom? What place is that, brother? Should I bow and scrape and beg for your forgiveness? Should I pretend that you didn't steal what was rightfully mine?" "The crown was never yours, Henry," King William replied patiently. "Father's will was clear, and the law of succession supported my claim. But that doesn't mean you have to live as an enemy of the realm." The conversation between the brothers revealed the deep pain and resentment that had torn their family apart. Marcus listened carefully, hoping that King William's words might reach some part of Prince Henry that still remembered their childhood bond. The tension in the forest clearing was thick as the two brothers faced each other. Marcus watched Prince Henry's face carefully, looking for any sign that the king's words were getting through to him. For a moment, Prince Henry's angry expression seemed to soften. Marcus thought he saw a flicker of the younger brother who had once played in the palace gardens with Prince William. But then Prince Henry's face hardened again. "You speak of family and forgiveness," Prince Henry said coldly. "But you destroyed my life. I had supporters' plans, a future. Now I'm hiding in the woods like a common criminal." King William stepped closer to his brother. "You destroyed your own future when you chose to lie and scheme instead of serving the kingdom honorably. But it's not too late to change course." Some of Prince Henry's men began murmuring among themselves. Marcus could hear fragments of their conversations. Many were tired of living as outlaws and were tempted by the king's offer of peace. But Prince Henry's most loyal supporter, a scarred, mercenary captain named Roderick, stepped forward aggressively. "Don't listen to him, Prince Henry. Kings always lie when they're trying to avoid a fight. He's afraid of us." Marcus immediately moved his horse between Roderick and King William. His hand moved to his sword hilt as he assessed the threat level. The other royal guards also shifted into protective positions. "I'm not afraid of you," King William said calmly to Roderick. "I'm trying to prevent unnecessary bloodshed, but if you force me to choose between peace and protecting my kingdom, I will choose my people every time." Prince Henry looked around at his ragged followers, then at his brother's well-equipped guards. Marcus could see him calculating his chances in a real battle. The prince was many things, but he wasn't stupid. "What exactly are you offering?" Prince Henry asked suspiciously. King William's voice remained steady and sincere. "Come back to the palace. Accept that I am the rightful king. In return, I'll give you a position as an advisor on foreign trade. You'll have a comfortable life, useful work, and the chance to serve the kingdom in a meaningful way." It was a generous offer, much more generous than most kings would give to a brother who had tried to steal their throne. Marcus admired King William's mercy, even though he worried it might be a mistake. Prince Henry was quiet for a long time, clearly struggling with his decision. Some of his followers began nodding encouragingly, hoping he would accept the peaceful solution. But Roderick wasn't finished making trouble. "This is a trap," he shouted. "The moment you go back with him, you'll be thrown in a dungeon. We should attack now while we have the chance." Several of the more desperate mercenaries drew their weapons, encouraged by Roderick's words. Marcus instantly spurred his horse forward, putting himself directly in front of King William, as the situation spiraled toward violence. "Stand down," Marcus commanded with all the authority of his position. "Any man who draws a weapon against the king will face justice," but Roderick was beyond reasoning. He charged toward King William with his sword raised, screaming a battle cry. Marcus met him halfway, their swords clashing in a shower of sparks. The fight between Marcus and Roderick was fierce but brief. Marcus's superior training and equipment gave him a clear advantage. Within moments, he had disarmed the mercenary captain and knocked him to the ground. The other rebels hesitated, unsure whether to continue fighting or surrender. The royal guards had their weapons ready but waited for orders from their king. Prince Henry stood frozen in the middle of the chaos, watching his last hope of rebellion crumble around him. With Roderick defeated and his other followers wavering, he finally understood that his dreams of taking the crown were truly over. "Enough!" Prince Henry called out, his voice breaking. "Lower your weapons! This madness ends now!" The rebels slowly put down their swords and stepped back. Marcus kept his weapon ready but didn't advance further. King William walked past him to stand before his defeated brother. "I'm sorry it came to this, Henry," King William said sadly. "But I'm glad you chose to end it before more people got hurt." Prince Henry looked up at his brother with tears in his eyes. For the first time since their father's death, his mask of anger and resentment fell away completely. I was so jealous of you," Prince Henry whispered. "You were always father's favorite. You were always better at everything. I thought if I could just have the crown, I could prove I was worthy of respect." King William reached out and placed a gentle hand on his brother's shoulder. "You never needed to prove anything to me, Henry. I always loved you as my brother. That hasn't changed even after everything that's happened." Marcus watched this emotional reunion with mixed feelings. He was glad the conflict was ending peacefully, but he also knew trust would need to be rebuilt slowly over time. In the end, Prince Henry accepted his brother's offer and returned to the palace. He served faithfully as a trade advisor for many years, eventually earning the respect he had always craved through honest work rather than schemes. Marcus continued, as head of the royal guard and the king's trusted advisor. He often thought about how one moment of courage had changed not just his own life, but the fate of an entire kingdom. Years later, when people asked Marcus about his decision to speak up during the coronation, he always gave the same answer. "Sometimes ordinary people have to do extraordinary things to protect what's right. I was just a guard doing his duty to serve justice and truth." The kingdom prospered under King William's wise rule, and the story of the palace guard who helped save the crown became a legend that inspired future generations to stand up for what they believed in, no matter how humble their position in life.